Hello friends. Today we're going to be discussing the very best and worst things spring from the seeds of our lineage. And what we are focused upon is taking all the good traits from our lineage and fine-tuning them, and taking all the traits from our lineage that are not optimal or could be pretty negative, and consuming them in the sacred fire, which there was a previous video about using the sacred fire for cleansing and purifying your lineages. All the expressions that we have in this reality stem from the DNA that was created here. Inside the DNA are memory patterns, and some of these memory patterns are the mass consciousness memory patterns of a stabilized Earth. For example, we live on an Earth or a planet, and this is built into our DNA. And also in these memory patterns is the whole history of our lineage. And these lineages go back a long time. And so I want to talk about, remember I had a video several ones back that there is no reincarnation. So we've covered that. We are avatars of our soul, and each avatar is created brand new and is designed to continue to grow through the levels of spiritual development and higher vibrational frequencies. We aren't meant to stay trapped at this level, although many are. So the idea to understand here is that your patterns come from your lineage. And this is where we get these feelings of karma, perhaps, or things that we're dealing with that seem to come out of nowhere. They are built somewhere in the memory of your lineage. And your soul carefully picks what lineage it wants to create an avatar in. And your soul has created avatars in every kind of imaginable lineage that is on the earth. So now I want to kind of go backtrack to one of the times that I told you a story about my own experiences where I was on a Syrian ship because I have avatars within my soul complex that originated on Sirius. And Sirius is, for our galactic understanding, a sort of judicial force in the galaxy. And they uphold the laws and they administer laws. And so, as I had said some time ago, there was major battles in the galaxy, and we're talking a very long time ago. But before I finish that story, I'm going to take us back even a little bit farther. In my book, I often talked about the firstborn, the first that moved into thought that could be translated into some sort of physical, sensory experience. And these firstborns create universes. And we really cannot connect too much to that energy other than just acknowledging it. But the next step beyond these firstborn who created universes, they also created another level, a step from that, which I term paradise beings. Paradise sons, paradise daughters, paradise beings. These beings create the divine blueprints that hold consciousness for our soul. Actually, the firstborns, when they created the universe, when they created this universe, and then they created the paradise beings, this sparked a multiplication of creating containers, what we call souls. They are containers of just pure consciousness. And this pure consciousness grows from creating avatars in various realms of frequencies of light and dimensions. So this soul container has been around for eons, and so our souls are very wise, and everything we need is contained within our own soul. So these souls have been creating avatars, but these avatars were originally designed with a divine blueprint, a blueprint created by the paradise sons and daughters, or the paradise beings. And this blueprint was an energetic blueprint that was designed to perfectly contain the laws of this universe and how to properly use them and work with them, and how to grow and expand your consciousness in this universe. These were laws contained in this blueprint. And then these blueprints were sent out into various areas of the universe. I'm just going to speak about our galaxy because I don't want to get too abstract. But we had blueprints that came in and were established for our galaxy. So what has happened a very long time ago was that this divine blueprint was corrupted. And this came at the paradise level. Once these blueprints were out in the universe and operating, there were beings that were at this higher level where they were able to, because we're talking, when these blueprints are created, they were created at a very high frequency. We're down here in third. They didn't start down here. They started at a very high frequency, and the blueprints were stepped down. And during the stepping down process, I would say, let me just say, if the Paradise Sons, I'm using this as just an example, were at 9th and 10th density, and the blueprints were stepped down into 8th and 7th density and 6th density. It began to be somewhere around this 6th density going, and there was a 5th and 4th and 3rd. We're in 3rd. We're also in 4th and 5th. We interact with 3rd, 4th, and 5th here. But it was in this level here, this middle ground, that the blueprint was intercepted and corrupted. And it was intercepted in a way that in this particular level of civilization, where there is a massive amount of civilization in 6th density, even 5th, I mean, every level has huge amounts of consciousness and avatars. But in this 6th density, this blueprint was beginning to become corrupted. And what happened was, over a long period of time, it began to be where these blueprints, these avatars that were being created in these blueprints on various planets in various parts of the galaxy, began to migrate and sort of formulate patterns together and mass consciousness together and group mind together. And there began to be resistance to the divine blueprint, the divine laws, the laws of the universe. They began to feel like they wanted to create their own reality, their own laws, their own way of doing things. And so there began to be a tension at this around 6th density level of ones who wanted to do it their own way and ones that were holding to the original blueprint. So unfortunately, there was massive wars that took place, and this is where it brings back into my Syrian lifetimes. And I had told you that my soul took me out of my body and took me into my Syrian body and literally planted me inside of my Syrian body. So towards, at one point in the timeline of that Syrian experience, where the wars we had won the war, you might say, and we were now administering justice or a determination from the council as to what to do with all these avatar blueprints. Now we're talking a blueprint. This is, in our realm, it's an electromagnetic blueprint that is feeding our DNA information. And these blueprints can be used and tweaked and reorganized, and when they are, then a consciousness comes into that blueprint, creates a physical body, and the DNA is solidified. The DNA is solidified through the energetic blueprint. The energetic blueprint is an energy that is constantly informing the DNA, and the DNA also has memories. So to quickly go back to the past, so we had a fall or a descent of this blueprint down into more contrasting frequencies. So now we're talking fifth, fourth, and third. And we're living in third. We're living in a pattern of frequencies that are highly polarizing and create great contrast. And we are also being influenced by fourth and fifth density beings. I'm not talking dimensions, so let's not get that science mixed up. This is just the way I have to explain it. It's a frequency, it's a density. In the fourth and fifth densities, we have a lot of extraterrestrials, because at that level, they understand there's a blueprint. They understand how to tweak that blueprint, and they understand how to modify our DNA. And so what has been occurring on our planet for a very long time is various ETs who are in third, fourth, and fifth densities because of this downgrade of a large group of avatars, but basically a downgrade of the blueprint. The blueprint, because it was corrupted, could no longer be held at a sixth density. So the blueprint, because there is free will with avatars, there are always free will. The Paradise Sons, the firstborn, those that are in charge, you know, they lay out a format for another level, a fifth level, a fourth level, a third level, so that this free will pattern of choice can have a place to grow, because avatars, their main purpose is to grow, because the soul as a container of consciousness comes alive and knows it exists from the growth experienced from its avatars. So there's not necessarily a good or bad, let's say, judgment on what occurred. But what did occur was a decision by the Syrians and a few other councils at that time to allow this blueprint to exist, where it was not creating conflict in this higher density. They would have their own. So here's where we are. We're in a blueprint that is being continuously tweaked. And a long time ago, even way back before the Sumerians, there have been ETs here who have created experiments on the planet. And for a little while, there was some experiments of isolations where one group would work over here and another group would work over here, and they were tweaking the DNA to try and get the pattern more accessible to fourth, fifth, and even sixth density, which is what they're trying to do. Both the positive and negative, I will say, ETs would like to get back into sixth density, but for different reasons. Some of them want to return, some of them are wanting to return back to those higher realms because that's where they have in their DNA memory patterns of the peaceful, beautiful civilizations of light, the golden cities of light, and they have that memory, and they are tweaking these avatars to try and rejuvenate and reorganize our blueprint back to those higher realms. And there are others that are seeking to keep us in this density, and there are the avatars, and there are even others who would like to somehow penetrate that sixth density and gain control over it. But that's not going to happen, but they still try. So primarily what is occurring is when you are born and you incarnate into your body, you are bringing forth the patterns from your family. And the reason this is important to understand is there is no mystery as to why things are happening to you. With the idea of reincarnation that was brought from the East, which has been terribly misunderstood, and I'm not saying everybody believes this, but there is a large group of people that believe that the soul just keeps reincarnating over and over and over and over again on a single timeline, which is, I've said many times, is not true. And then we have these ideas that, oh, we were this person, you know, in Babylon, or we were this person in Egypt, or, you know, and that's all, you know, I was that person, I keep reincarnating. And, you know, it's all sort of out there in the etheric. The truth is, your DNA is here and accessible to you right now, and your memories are accessible to you of your lineage. Now that has nothing necessarily to do with all the avatars that your soul has created. And your soul has thousands and thousands of avatars, and they do exist around you, but we do not necessarily want to tap into those because they were vibrating in a different time period with different belief systems. And you cannot go back to the past and try to connect to some avatar thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago and gain any influence from them, because they're not going to help you. The only avatars within your soul that will help you are those that are in 6th, 7th, 8th dimensions or densities, or your mighty I am presence, which is the center light point of your soul. And that mighty I am presence is beyond 8th, and it sits as a single point that is connected to the great central sun of our universe. And that is why the sacred fire comes through the great central sun into your mighty I am presence, and then can be shared to all the avatars. So what we want to do in the physical, where we are now, is we need to get back to studying our family lineages a little bit more carefully. And I would like to say that I was back on a story where we had these pockets of DNA of extraterrestrials working on tweaking the DNA. And so for a while there was a little bit of more purity in the races. And when I say that, it's only because there were certain patterns that were being played out evolutionary, and when that would occur and they were in isolation, they could create a group consciousness pretty easily, because the avatars that kept coming in, say in Asia or in somewhere in North America or somewhere in Europe, and they were fairly isolated, they could develop their own DNA consciousness patterns as a group. So every time an avatar was being born in there, they already had a set group of guideline patterns that had been working and evolving. And there was attempts to evolve higher some of this blueprint that we have. At the same time, there were ETs coming to this planet with blueprint ideas and DNA ideas to keep us anchored here. And when I say anchored here, I'm also talking about the astral worlds, or what the Catholics call purgatory. And many this may be a little difficult to hear. These are not easy conversations, but many avatars often get trapped in the astral world. They don't go beyond that. And what is the astral world? The astral world is your blueprint, is your third density blueprint. And this blueprint in our density is being affected by emotions. Feelings drive our blueprint. This is why I'm talking about the law of attraction. The law of attraction, which I mentioned in a previous video, is our universal law. It is immutable. You can't get around it. What you feel, you attract to you. And that's pretty much it. And I also spoke to you about the sacred fire, which can help to buffer some of your own negative feelings and some of your lineage, which was in a previous video. So we have this pattern that's been generating for a while, that people don't necessarily know anything about life after death. They have faith, they have hope, and some have nothing at all. And so a lot of people, when they pass over, they are greeted by their family lineage, not their wife or husband, their family lineage. So for instance, I know relatives, and I have astral traveled to relatives that I've had that have passed over. And I even was there at one relative who died. I was there watching the actual process. My soul wanted me to witness what was occurring with this particular person that I knew that passed over. And this person died in their sleep and didn't know they were dead or had died. And they kept going about their daily life, because the astral worlds are feeling generated and are mirror images of the physical world. So if you have a house or a farm or an apartment, you're in that apartment or house doing what you normally do. And this person was doing it for a few days. And this person's father came to coax them out of the house, out of that reality, into going with them to another level of the astral world, where this person would then dwell with their lineage family, pretty much like they had on Earth. So this occurs a lot. People, when they're passing over, they see their mother, their father, their grandfather, just whoever is the relatives. Then there are people who have belief systems that they go to heavenly realms where they're beautiful light and golden cities and streets are paved with gold, like the idea of Christianity. And there are higher realms that exist in the astral worlds that are very pleasing and wonderful to dwell in, but you have to match that vibration. So it is your DNA, well, not the DNA, but it is the blueprint after you die. This blueprint is still alive and active, because this blueprint is multidimensional. So it is your blueprint frequency when you die that determines where you go. And so we have a lot of people that are dwelling in these astral worlds, and some of the frequencies are very low. Some of them are kind of like where we are now, and some of them are very high and peaceful. So this has been a process of evolution that's going on, trying to work this divine blueprint, trying to re-energize the blueprint so that it can regain its higher frequencies. And this is what all of my library of teachings is trying to leave for humanity. And there may be people right now who can understand, or let's say are resonating with what I'm talking about, but this information may not resonate until 1 or 2 generations later. But it is an idea of understanding that we have to raise our frequencies and we have to maintain higher frequencies in our consciousness in this body. That way we can then, when we pass over, we are able to access these higher frequencies or higher realms of light. And I have talked about that in a number of videos. That one of the things we're talking about here is becoming multidimensional. That you can, while still living, take your consciousness and transfer it into higher bodies, into astral bodies, or you can use this exact blueprint and go travel in the astral worlds, or you can leave this body and travel in higher, finer light bodies into higher worlds. This is how you begin to be educated and initiated into higher worlds. You begin to wear a body temporarily in these higher worlds, and you come and go from that. And in order to access those bodies, you have to be able to have the frequencies integrated into the third density blueprint, the electromagnetic blueprint that is constantly sending information to your DNA. There's always energetic consciousness information being sent into your DNA. And so what happens when we are born is that we are bombarded with a lot of negative energy. And I know we have a lot of positive things too in our family lineage, but I'm speaking about generally the way the world works right now. We are bombarded with a lot of negative programming and negative energy. And how that is affecting us is that it is imprinted in the synapses of our nervous system. And so what is being trapped is our nervous system, which I may have to even talk about that in another video. But our nervous system has these traumas trapped in them. And so our nervous system is constantly reacting to the world based on the traumas that were imprinted in the synapses of our nervous system. And so this is where the sacred fire comes in and can clean out your nervous system and can clean out the negative things in your family lineage. And that allows you to raise up all the wonderful positive things of your family lineage, fine-tune them and tweak them, and use them to rejuvenate and resurrect your blueprint into higher frequencies of light. So I think I'm going to stop right there for today because I could talk for hours on this. So I hope this has helped you understand a little bit more about your lineage and how important it is to understand the good traits and bad traits, how important it is to meditate every day in the sacred fire and to clean up your own nervous system and to clean up your past lineages with the sacred fire. And we will go forward from here talking about many things that have to do with this. I also have some extraterrestrial and secret space program military encounters that I've sort of been trying to decide when to bring that up, but I'm trying to move along in a sort of some sort of an order. So I appreciate you watching these videos, and if you enjoyed them, please subscribe and like them, and I will see you again soon.